The Galactic Council's alien coalition tried to cripple humanity, failed miserably. Part 1. The ultimatum. Jack Nelson stood at the observation deck of the USS Defiant, watching Earth grow smaller in the distance. At 53, with gray hair, at his temples and deep lines around his eyes, he had seen humanity's journey to the stars from its humble beginnings. Now, as Admiral of the United Earth Space Force's newest and most powerful vessel, he felt a deep pride in how far his species had come. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission," said Lieutenant Amy Foster, her young face serious as she looked up from her console. "It's from the Galactic Council. They're requesting to speak with you directly." Jack frowned. The Galactic Council rarely contacted human ships directly. The coalition of 17 alien species had kept their distance since humans developed, faster than light travel 15 years ago. Their occasional diplomatic meetings were always scheduled weeks in advance. "Put them through to the main screen," Jack ordered, straightening his dark blue uniform jacket. The screen flickered to life, revealing a tall reptilian creature with emerald scales and vertical pupils. 4 arms were folded across its chest, in what humans had learned was a gesture of authority among the Zoraxians. "Admiral Nelson, I am High Counselor Slith of the Zoraxian Empire, speaking on behalf of the Galactic Council." The alien's voice translator gave its words a metallic quality. "The Council has reached a decision regarding humanity's rapid expansion and technological advancement." Jack felt the mood on the bridge shift. The 20 crew members present all turned toward the screen. "We are listening, Counselor," Jack said, calmly. "Humanity has developed technologies that threaten the stability of this sector. Your quantum drive innovations and your military expansion have progressed too rapidly." Slith's eyes narrowed. "The Council demands that Earth dismantle 80% of its fleet, surrender all quantum technology patents, and accept permanent monitoring stations on every human colony." The bridge fell silent. Jack worked to keep his expression neutral, despite the anger rising in his chest. "That's quite a demand, Counselor. May I ask what happens if we decline?" Slith's mouth curved in what might have been a smile. "This is not a negotiation, Admiral. You have 30 Earth days to begin compliance. The consequences of refusal would be severe." The screen went black before Jack could respond. "Send that recording to Earth Command and the President's office. Immediately," Jack ordered, his mind racing. "Then get me a secure channel to President Miller." Dr. Olivia Wright hadn't slept in 36 hours. The dark-skinned scientist pushed her curly hair back from her face as she stared at the data, scrolling across her screen in the Lunar Research Facility. What had begun as routine analysis of communication patterns between Earth's colonies had led her down a rabbit hole she couldn't ignore. "Computer, run the pattern recognition algorithm again, but this time include the communications blackouts from the Neptune station last year," she said, reaching for her 4th cup of coffee. The lunar facility was quiet at this hour, most of the 50 researchers asleep in their quarters. The silence helped Olivia think as the computer processed her request. The screen flashed with new results confirming what she had suspected. "Oh my God," she whispered. Olivia quickly composed a message to Admiral Nelson, marking it urgent and encrypted. She had worked with Jack years ago when the first FTL drive was being tested, and she trusted him completely. Her message was simple: the accidents at Mars colony, the strange malfunctions at Neptune's orbital station, the unexplained loss of 3 cargo ships in the past year, all showed evidence of deliberate sabotage, and the signature energy patterns matched known Zoraxian and Taurian technology, 2 of the most powerful Council species. President Susan Miller sat in the Oval Office, her face grave as she looked at the 12 people gathered around the historic table. At 61, with short silver hair and keen blue eyes, she had led Earth through 8 years of unprecedented growth and expansion into space. "So the ultimatum is real," she said, looking from Jack Nelson to Olivia Wright. "And Dr. Wright's evidence suggests they've been working against us for years." "Yes, Madam President," Olivia said. "The pattern is clear. The Council has been testing our vulnerabilities, causing what looked like accidents to slow our progress. They've been gathering intelligence on our capabilities while making it look like random failures." Defense Secretary Dan Lewis, a burly man with a permanent frown, leaned forward. We should strike first. Our new quantum torpedoes could hit their main worlds before they know what's happening. And start an interstellar war we might not win? Asked Vice President Maria Evans. The Council has been governing this sector for thousands of years. They have resources we can only imagine. Jack cleared his throat. There's another option. The Council clearly thinks we're weaker than we are. Their sabotage efforts suggest they don't fully understand our technology or our capabilities. We could use that. President Miller nodded slowly. Go on, Admiral. We make it look like we're preparing to comply. Shut down some visible military installations, make a show of dismantling older ships. Meanwhile, we accelerate our secret programs and prepare for the fight they're obviously planning to bring to us. A show of weakness while building strength, President Miller mused. It's risky. Less risky than immediate war or actual compliance, Jack replied. The Council has miscalculated. They see our youth as a species on the galactic stage as weakness. They don't understand human history, how many times we've faced threats and not just survived, but emerged stronger. Susan Miller stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the Washington Monument gleaming in the afternoon sun. We've faced extinction-level events before, she said quietly. The climate wars of the 2040s nearly ended us. The asteroid that almost hit us in 2075 came within minutes of wiping out all life on Earth. But each time we pulled together and found a way forward. She turned back to face the room. And now some aliens who don't even know us think they can simply demand our surrender? Her eyes flashed with determination as she looked at each person in turn. Launch Operation Phoenix immediately. All classified defense initiatives go to Level 1 priority. We'll appear to negotiate in good faith, while preparing for whatever comes. The Council wants to see humanity kneel. They'll learn that's not what we do. Jack felt a surge of pride at her words. In the 17 years since humans had ventured beyond their solar system, they had faced countless challenges. This would be the greatest test yet, but looking around, the room at the resolute faces of Earth's leadership, he knew that the Galactic Council had made a critical error. They had threatened humans. And throughout history, nothing had ever united humanity more effectively than a common enemy. As the meeting concluded and plans were set in motion, Jack wondered if the Council had any idea what they had just awakened. Humanity had clawed its way up from caves to the stars through intelligence, adaptability, and an unbreakable will to survive. The Council was about to learn a painful lesson about the species they had so gravely underestimated. The Galactic Council's alien coalition tried to cripple humanity, failed miserably. Part 2. The Silent Countermove. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, in a facility unknown to most of humanity, General Frank Harris walked through sliding doors into a room filled with holographic displays. The underground base, carved into the ocean floor 10 years ago as a last resort command center, now served as the headquarters for Operation Phoenix. Status report, Frank said to the room of 30 officers and scientists. Though 60 years old with a prosthetic leg from the Mars colony riots, the general moved with purpose and energy. His weathered face showed no fear, only focus. Council observers have documented the shutdown of the Jupiter defense platform and the apparent dismantling of our older ship models, said Major Ellen Dixon, pointing to images on the main screen. They believe we're preparing to comply with their demands. Frank nodded. Good. And our actual preparations? Ellen swiped the display to show a different set of images. The micro-factories in the Kuiper Belt are at full production. Kate Johnson's autonomous defense drones are being manufactured at a rate of 500 per day. At the mention of her name, Kate stepped forward. The AI specialist was in her 30s with short blonde hair and the intense focus of someone who rarely slept these days. The drones use the same quantum resonance technology as our ships, but I've modified the algorithms, Kate explained. They can operate individually or as a swarm, adapting to any attack pattern, and they're small enough to avoid detection by Council scanning methods. Frank turned to the civilian engineer standing nearby. Ms. Powell, your team's progress? Diane Powell pushed her glasses up on her nose. At 45, she had left a comfortable job designing luxury space yachts to join Operation Phoenix. Her round face was serious as she answered, "We've cracked the Council's communication network. Their quantum encryption was advanced, but it has patterns my team recognized from old Earth mathematics. We can not only listen in, but disrupt their signals when needed." Frank allowed himself a small smile. "Excellent work, all of you. Now let's hear from our combat teams." Sam Baker stepped forward. The retired Marine had a shaved head and arms covered in tattoos from his 20 years of service. "My special forces are ready, General. We've used the anatomical data gathered during diplomatic exchanges to design combat techniques specific to each Council species." He touched a control pad, bringing up training footage. Soldiers in special suits moved through obstacle courses, practicing strikes against holographic aliens of different shapes and sizes. "Zoraxians have vulnerable nerve clusters here and here," Sam explained, pointing to spots on a reptilian hologram. "Taurians can't see well in certain light frequencies, and Krellin armor has a design flaw at the joint seams." Frank nodded. "And our regular forces?" "Every ship has been quietly retrofitted with the new shields designed by Dr. Wright's team," Sam replied. "And we've hidden weapon platforms throughout the solar system, disguised as research stations or mining operations." As the briefing continued, Frank felt a mix of pride and concern. Humanity was preparing as best it could, but they faced species with thousands of years of technological advancement and military experience. The next few weeks would determine the future of the human race. On the Lunar Research Facility, Olivia Wright met with Alan Garcia in a small, secure lab. Alan, a scientist in his 40s with kind eyes and a perpetual 5 o'clock shadow, had been working around the clock analyzing Council technology. "I think I've found something important," Alan said, pulling up images on his tablet. "Each Council species relies on specific technology advantages. The Zoraxians use gravimetric weapons. The Taurians depend on their faster-than-light communications. The Krellins have advanced armor." Olivia nodded. "And you've found weaknesses?" "Better than that," Alan said with excitement. "I've found how to turn their advantages against them. Look at this." He showed her simulations of Council weapons failing or backfiring in specific circumstances. "The same quantum principles that power our ships can be used to disrupt their weapons," Alan explained. "Their technology is more advanced, in many ways, but it's also more rigid. They haven't innovated in centuries because they haven't needed to. We've had to be creative just to catch up." Olivia studied the data, her tired mind racing with possibilities. "This could change everything. We need to get this information to Admiral Nelson immediately." In orbit around Earth, a Zoraxian observer ship monitored the planet. Captain Vrex, a young officer on his first assignment, watched the humans with contempt. "Look at them scrambling to comply with our demands," Vrex said to his second-in-command. "They're dismantling defense stations and moving their larger ships away from their colonies, just as weak as High Counselor Slith predicted." His second-in-command, older and more experienced, looked less certain. "I don't know, sir. Something feels wrong. Humans have a reputation for being unpredictable." "Nonsense," Vrex replied. "Our intelligence is clear. They're primitive and disorganized. They developed faster than light travel through luck, not skill. In 30 days, they'll be under our complete control." The second-in-command didn't argue, but continued watching the planet with concern. Unlike his captain, he had studied human history. A species that had nearly destroyed itself multiple times only to emerge stronger each time was not one he would underestimate. On the USS Defiant, now hidden in the shadow of Saturn, Jack Nelson received encrypted updates from Earth. As he read, through the reports from General Harris and Dr. Wright, a feeling of cautious optimism grew. "Lieutenant Foster," he called to his communications officer, "signal the fleet. It's time for Phase 2. Amy nodded and began sending coded messages to the ships hidden throughout the solar system. Each vessel acknowledged with a simple light signal, no radio communications that might be detected. Jack looked at the tactical display showing Council ships moving into position around Earth and its colonies. The aliens thought they were watching a defeated species prepare to surrender. They had no idea they were being watched just as closely. The Council had given humanity 30 days, expecting compliance born of fear. Instead, They had given humans exactly what they needed: time to prepare. And humans had used every second of it. As Jack watched the final preparations come together, he thought of all the times throughout human history when invaders had underestimated those they sought to conquer. The Council was about to join a long list of powers who learned too late that humans were at their most dangerous when cornered. The silent countermove was nearly complete. Soon the Council would make their next move, and humanity would be ready. The Galactic Council's alien coalition tried to cripple humanity, failed miserably. Part 3. First Strike. 3 days before the Council's deadline, Captain Lisa Chen sat in the command chair of the small patrol ship USS Vigilant. Her vessel appeared to be just one of 10 outdated ships left to defend Earth, exactly what the Council expected to see. In reality, the Vigilant had been completely rebuilt inside its old hull, filled with the latest technology Earth could produce. Lisa was 34, with sharp eyes that missed nothing and a calm demeanor even in crisis. She had been handpicked by Admiral Nelson for this mission because of her exceptional tactical mind. "Captain, long-range sensors are picking up energy signatures," said her first officer, Paul Rivera. "Multiple ships just appeared near the moon." Lisa straightened in her chair. "Identity? Zeraxian warships. 30 of them. And they're deploying something." The main screen showed dark, disc-shaped objects spreading out from the alien vessels, heading toward Earth. "Those are gravimetric disruptors," Lisa said, recognizing them from intelligence briefings. "They're designed to create localized gravity distortions that would tear apart our infrastructure." She touched her communication panel. "Alert Earth. Command. The Council isn't waiting for their own deadline. This is it." Lisa took a deep breath, then spoke clearly. "Initiate Operation Phoenix. Authentication code, Armstrong Eagle 17. Throughout the solar system, hidden human forces received her signal and began to move. On Earth, Kate Johnson sat in her control center beneath Denver, surrounded by screens showing the approaching Zeraxian fleet. When the authentication code came through, she nodded to her team of 20 operators. "Deploy the quantum shield grid," she ordered. Her fingers flew across her console, activating thousands of small satellites that had been secretly placed in orbit over the past month. Each one was barely larger than a coffee cup, too small for Council sensors to consider a threat. "Grid is online," called one of her technicians, "power levels stable." On her main screen, Kate watched as the first gravimetric disruptors reached Earth's atmosphere. The Council expected them to penetrate easily and cause devastation below. Instead, they hit the invisible quantum shield. The shield didn't just stop the weapons, it absorbed their energy. Each impact made the shield stronger, following the principles Dr. Wright had discovered. The Council's own weapons were powering Earth's defenses. Kate allowed herself a small smile. "Activate Phase 2. In orbit, Lisa Chen watched in satisfaction as the Zeraxian ships reacted in confusion. Their weapons weren't having the expected effect. Now it was time for humanity's response. "Activate the quantum fold generators," she ordered. Around Earth, what appeared to be empty space began to shimmer. Hundreds of human ships appeared as if by magic, emerging from the special folded space pockets where they had been hiding. The small defensive fleet of 10 ships suddenly became over 400 vessels of various sizes, all armed with weapons the Council had never seen. On the bridge of the Zeraxian command ship, Fleet Commander Drax stared in disbelief at his sensors. "Impossible," he hissed. "Where did these ships come from? Our intelligence said they only had a handful of defensive vessels left." His tactical officer looked up in alarm. "Sir, they're deploying some kind of drones, thousands of them." Outside, Kate's autonomous defense drones swarmed from hidden bays on the human ships. Each one was about the size of a small car, fast and maneuverable, programmed with advanced attack patterns. They surrounded the Zeraxian vessels, targeting weapons, systems and engines with precise energy pulses. Drax slammed his fist on his command console. "Call for reinforcements. The Taurian fleet near Jupiter must join us immediately." His communications officer tried repeatedly to send the message. "Sir, something is blocking our transmissions. I can't reach anyone outside this system." In a stealth ship near Jupiter, Diane Powell monitored her equipment with intense focus. Her team had activated the communication disruption system, isolating the Zoraxian attack fleet from the rest of the Council forces. "Disruption field holding. Steady," reported one of her engineers. "They can't call for help." Diane nodded. "Keep it stable. Let's make sure our ships near Jupiter are ready for the Taurians." As expected, the Taurian fleet stationed near Jupiter began to move toward Earth when they detected the battle. What they didn't expect was to find another human fleet waiting for them hidden behind Jupiter's moons. On board the lead Taurian vessel, Commander Krav entered the bridge confidently. The bull-like alien stood nearly 8 feet tall, his species known for their physical strength and confidence in battle. "Set course to assist the Zoraxian fleet," he ordered. "We will crush these humans once and for—" He stopped mid-sentence as alarms blared throughout the ship. "What is happening?" "Internal systems failing," reported a junior officer in panic. "Weapons offline. Engines not responding." Krav roared in anger. "How? We just completed all security checks." Unknown to the Taurians, Sam Baker's specially trained soldiers had infiltrated their vessels weeks earlier during routine maintenance visits. Disguised as service workers, they had planted devices throughout the ships that now activated simultaneously, shutting down critical systems. On 7 major Taurian vessels, hidden human operatives emerged from concealment, taking control of key areas. They had studied Taurian physiology and combat techniques, knowing exactly how to neutralize the aliens with minimal force. Within 20 minutes, half the Taurian fleet was disabled or under human control. Back at Earth, Lisa Chen coordinated the battle from the USS Vigilant. The Zoraxian ships, cut off from reinforcements and facing unexpected resistance, began to retreat. Their formation broke apart as Kate's drones continued to target their engines and weapons. "Captain," called Paul Rivera, "the Zoraxian command ship is trying to jump to faster than light speed." Lisa shook her head. "Not today." She opened a channel to Dr. Wright at the lunar facility. "Doctor, they're attempting to escape. Time to test your FTL disruptor." On the moon, Olivia activated a device her team had developed based on Council technology. It created a field that temporarily prevented faster-than-light travel within the Earth-Moon system. The Zoraxian command ship's engines flared as it attempted to jump, then sputtered and failed. For the first time in their long history of conquest, the Zoraxians found themselves trapped and outmatched. In the White House Situation Room, President Susan Miller watched the battle unfold on multiple screens. Beside her, General Harris provided updates as they came in. "The Zoraxian fleet is in full retreat to the edge of the system," Frank reported. "The Taurian reinforcements have been neutralized. We've taken minimal casualties." Susan nodded, her face solemn despite the victory. "And the Council's main fleet?" "Still, at their home systems. They expected this to be an easy operation. They weren't prepared for a real fight." Susan looked at the images of disabled alien ships and the successful human defense. "This isn't over," she said quietly. "This was just their first move. Make sure everyone understands that." Frank nodded. "Yes, Madam President. But today's victory will send a message throughout the galaxy. Humanity will not be easily conquered." As reports continued to come in, Susan allowed herself a moment of pride. The species that had evolved on a harsh planet, surviving countless natural and self-made disasters, had just faced its first interstellar threat, and demonstrated exactly why humans should never be underestimated. The Council had expected submission. Instead, they had awakened a sleeping giant. The Galactic Council's alien coalition tried to cripple humanity, failed miserably. Part 4. The Council fractures. News of the failed attack on Earth spread quickly through Council space. On the Galactic Council's central world, Harmonex, emergency. Sessions were called as the 17 member species gathered to address the crisis. High Counselor Slith of the Zoraxians stood before the circular chamber, facing his peers. The normally confident reptilian seemed shaken. The operation to bring humans into compliance has encountered difficulties, Slith said, choosing his words carefully. The Earth defense was more substantial than our intelligence suggested. From across the chamber, Ambassador Threll of the Altarians rose to speak. The Altarians resembled tall, slender humans, with pale blue skin and silver eyes. They had always been among the more peaceful council members. Difficulties? Threll's voice was calm, but carried throughout the chamber. You launched an unprovoked attack against a species that was still within their response period. Your fleet was defeated, and now you call it difficulties? Murmurs spread through the gathered representatives. Many had been told that humans were primitive and dangerous, a species developing too quickly for galactic stability. Now they wondered what else they had been misled about. Supreme Commander Grak of the Krell species slammed his massive fist on the table. The warrior race was known for their aggression and military might. Enough talk, Grak growled. The humans simply caught us unprepared. I will take my battle fleet to their colony on Europa and crush their resistance there. Once we control their outer settlements, Earth will surrender. Several council members nodded in agreement, but others looked uncertain. The Altarians and 3 other species remained noticeably silent. As the council debated, none of them noticed a small device hidden beneath the central table, quietly recording everything. On Earth, Ben Turner sat in his apartment in Seattle, surrounded by screens and specialized equipment. At 28, with untidy brown hair and perpetually tired eyes, Ben was considered one of the best hackers on the planet. When Operation Phoenix began, he had been recruited for a special mission. For months, Ben had been working to infiltrate the Council's central database. Using techniques that combined Earth's unique approach to computer science with what humans had learned about alien technology, he had finally succeeded. I'm in, Ben whispered, though there was no one else in the room. Holy cow, I'm actually in their system. On his main screen, files and data streams from the Council's most classified networks appeared. Thousands of documents, communications, and records, all now accessible. Ben began downloading everything, sorting the information for Earth's analysts, while simultaneously planting specialized programs throughout the Council's network. His hands moved rapidly across his keyboards. Let's see what secrets you've been keeping, Counselor Silith. On Europa, Jupiter's ice-covered moon and humanity's most distant colony, Dr. Olivia Wright worked with a team of engineers to prepare for the attack they knew was coming. After the battle at Earth, she had volunteered to help defend the colony that was sure to be the Council's next target. The ice tunnels in sectors 7 through 12 are ready, reported a young engineer named Greg Walsh, and we've installed the magnetic accelerators at all major junctions. Olivia nodded, reviewing the defense plans on her tablet. Europa's harsh environment, a surface of ice covering a vast ocean, had always made the colony challenging to build and maintain. Now they would use that same environment as a weapon. The sensors we placed in Jupiter's orbit detected the Krell fleet launching 6 hours ago, Olivia said. They'll be here within 12 hours. Is everyone clear on the defense protocol? The 20 people gathered in the command center nodded. Unlike Earth, Europa couldn't rely on a large military presence. Instead, they would use science and the moon's natural features to defend themselves. Remember, Olivia continued, the Krell rely heavily on thermal imaging to track targets. The ice tunnels will mask our heat signatures, allowing our teams to move undetected. Their ships can't land on the unstable regions we've marked, so they'll be forced to use the landing zones we've prepared. Greg pointed to the map. And that's where the surprises will be waiting. The Krell attack fleet, consisting of 40 heavy warships, approached Europa with confidence. Supreme Commander Grak observed the small human colony from the bridge of his flagship. Pathetic, he rumbled to his officers. Their main base has minimal defenses. This will be over quickly. The Krell ships moved into position around the moon, their sensors scanning for military emplacements. Finding few obvious targets, they began landing troops at the designated zones near the human settlement. As the first Krell soldiers stepped onto Europa's icy surface, they were met with an eerie silence. The colony appeared nearly deserted. Proceed, To the main habitat dome, ordered the Krell captain. Secure their command center. The troops moved forward cautiously, their heavy armor protecting them from the extreme cold. They reached the habitat dome without resistance and forced open the airlock. Inside, they found empty corridors and powered-down systems. No humans in sight. "Sir, something is wrong," reported a soldier. The humans appear to have evacuated. Before the captain could respond, the ice beneath their feet began to vibrate. Throughout the colony, magnetic accelerators activated, launching ice spears at incredible speeds toward the Krell ship still in orbit. Each spear was simple, just frozen water, but accelerated to such velocities that they pierced the hulls of 7 ships in the first barrage. Simultaneously, the ice around the landing zones cracked open, revealing hidden launchers that fired electromagnetic pulses directly at the Krell armor. The pulses didn't harm the soldiers but disabled their communications and weapon systems. From hidden tunnels throughout the colony, human defenders emerged, using specialized equipment designed to target Krell vulnerabilities. They moved quickly, disappearing back into the tunnels before the Krell could effectively respond. In orbit, more Krell ships fell victim to the ice spears and other defensive measures. The attack that was supposed to be a simple show of force had turned into chaos. Back on Earth, Ben Turner's hack into the Council database was bearing fruit. He had discovered thousands of classified documents revealing centuries of Council manipulation. "This is unbelievable," Ben muttered as he forwarded critical files to President Miller and Admiral Nelson. The document showed that the Council leadership had been engineering conflicts between member species for generations, ensuring no single group became too powerful. They had suppressed technological advancement among newer members and secretly eliminated civilizations deemed too innovative or independent. With a few keystrokes, Ben executed his final program. Across Council space, the classified files began appearing on public networks, accessible to every citizen of every member species. The Council's secrets were secrets no more. On Harmonex, the Council chamber erupted in chaos as representatives received urgent messages from their home worlds. "What is the meaning of this?" demanded the Maduran ambassador, holding up a datapad showing evidence that the Council had deliberately sabotaged their colony ships 20 years earlier. "Is this true?" Similar accusations flew across the chamber as centuries of deception came to light. The carefully maintained facade of unity cracked, then shattered completely. Ambassador Threll of the Altarians stood calmly amidst the uproar. When a message came through on his private channel, an invitation to speak directly with President Miller of Earth, he silently slipped away from the chamber. The Galactic Council, which had maintained control through manipulation and fear for thousands of years, was facing something it had never anticipated: accountability. The Galactic Council's alien coalition tried to cripple humanity, failed miserably. Part 5. Humanity Ascendant. 6 months after the failed Council attacks, the newly constructed Orbital Diplomatic Center hung in space above Earth. The massive structure, built with both human and alien technology, represented something unprecedented in the galaxy, a place where species met as equals rather than as rulers and subjects. Inside the grand meeting hall, representatives from 23 galactic species gathered around a circular table. Some were former Council members. Others were races that had been kept on the fringes of galactic society by Council policies. At the center of it all stood President Susan Miller, her silver hair gleaming under the soft lights. "Today marks the official founding of the Galactic Cooperative," Susan announced to the assembled delegates. "Unlike the Council before us, we are united not by force or fear, but by shared principles of respect, innovation, and mutual benefit." Ambassador Threll of the Altarians nodded in agreement. In the months since the Council's collapse, he had worked closely with humans to build a new framework for interstellar relations. For too long, the Council maintained power by keeping species divided and progress controlled, Threll said. The cooperative will instead encourage advancement and exchange of ideas. Around the table, delegates murmured their approval. Even species that had once been humanity's enemies now recognized the benefits of the new arrangement. Admiral Jack Nelson stood on the observation deck of the Orbital Diplomatic Center, watching Earth rotate slowly below. Beside him was Mira, a representative of the Madurans, a species known for their advanced mathematics and engineering skills. Together, they observed the combined human-alien fleet that now patrolled the solar system. If anyone had told me, a year ago, that we'd be working alongside Council species, I'd have thought they were crazy, Jack admitted. Mira's crystalline eyes reflected the starlight. Many of us had been manipulated for generations. The Council leadership kept the truth from their own people, as much as from outsiders. Jack nodded. The revelation of the Council's deception had shocked many member species, leading to internal revolts and the eventual collapse of the old power structure. 5 former Council species had immediately declared neutrality in the conflict with Earth. 2 others, including the Madurans, had switched sides completely. The Joint Peacekeeping Force has already prevented 3 conflicts in nearby systems, Jack noted, looking at the mixed fleet. Species that were fighting for centuries are now talking instead. That is humanity's true gift to the galaxy, Mira said. Not your weapons or technology, but your different perspective. You question assumptions that we have lived with for millennia. Jack smiled. We're stubborn that way. In a laboratory on the moon, Dr. Olivia Wright led a team of scientists from 6 different species. The group had been working for months on a project that would have been impossible under the old Council restrictions. The final simulations are complete, announced Alan Garcia, bringing up a holographic display for everyone to see. The terraforming process works at the molecular level, adapting to different planetary compositions. A tall, insect-like Zaran, scientist clicked her mandibles in excitement. And the time frame? Complete transformation of an uninhabitable planet in just 23 years, Olivia replied, instead of the centuries it would take with previous methods. The implications were enormous. For generations, species had fought over the limited number of habitable worlds. Now, with this new technology, thousands of previously uninhabitable planets could become homes for expanding civilizations. The Ziran scientists' antennae quivered. The Council suppressed this kind of research for centuries. They claimed rapid terraforming would destabilize ecosystems across the galaxy. They were afraid it would eliminate one of their main sources of control, Alan said. If resources are plentiful, it's harder to make people fight each other. Olivia looked around at the diverse team, feeling a sense of pride. This is just the beginning. Imagine what else we can accomplish together. In Seattle, Ben Turner walked through the doors of the new Interspecies Technology Exchange, a center where humans and aliens shared ideas and innovations. His hacking skills had made him famous across Earth, but he had turned down government positions to focus on what he loved most, solving interesting problems. Inside, Ben joined Kate Johnson, who was demonstrating her autonomous drone technology, to a group of young engineers from 3 different species. The key was developing an AI that could make decisions based on changing conditions, Kate explained. Each drone is independent, but they can also function as a collective intelligence when needed. A young Altarian raised a slender blue hand. Could this technology be adapted for environmental restoration on damaged worlds? Kate smiled. Absolutely. We're already testing versions that can help clean oceans and restore forests on Earth. The applications are endless. Ben watched with satisfaction. For years, humans had developed technology in isolation, solving problems with limited resources and knowledge. Now, with the galaxy open to them, innovation was accelerating at an unprecedented rate. In classrooms across Earth, children learned about what had come to be called the 30-Day War, the brief but pivotal conflict that had changed humanity's place in the cosmos. In a school in London, a 10-year-old girl raised her hand. Ms. Adams, why did the Council think they could beat us so easily? Her teacher, Linda Adams, considered the question. They had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years, and they'd never encountered a species quite like humans before. We evolved on a challenging planet that forced us to adapt constantly. We've faced countless threats, Natural disasters, climate change, our own conflicts, and each time we've had to innovate to survive. She brought up an image showing Earth ships alongside alien vessels. The Council species had become comfortable. They hadn't needed to truly innovate in centuries. They underestimated the power of a species that had to fight for everything it achieved. Another student spoke up. So we won because we're better fighters? No, Linda replied. We prevailed because we understand something the Council had forgotten, that true strength comes not from domination, but from adaptation, cooperation, and the willingness to see challenges as opportunities. In the presidential office of the White House, Susan Miller signed the final document officially dissolving the old Galactic Council's authority over Earth and its colonies. Across from her sat representatives from a dozen former Council species, each adding their own signature to mark the beginning of a new era. As Susan handed the ceremonial pen to Ambassador Threll, she thought about how differently things might have gone. If the Council had approached humans with respect rather than demands, if they had offered partnership instead of subjugation, perhaps conflict could have been avoided entirely. But then, she reflected, without that challenge, humanity might never have reached for its full potential. Sometimes pressure created diamonds. This is not an ending but a beginning, Susan said to the assembled representatives. Together we face a future with challenges we cannot yet imagine. But if we've learned anything, it's that diversity of thought and experience makes us stronger, not weaker. As the ceremony concluded, Susan looked out the window at the Washington Monument gleaming in the sunlight. For thousands of years, the Council had maintained what they called stability through control and fear. Now the galaxy would learn a different way forward, one where progress came through cooperation, innovation, and the simple human belief that tomorrow could always be better than today. The species that had once tried to cripple humanity now looked to it for leadership, discovering that what they had feared as a threat was actually their greatest hope.